Today I'm starting a bit of an adventure. Probably unwisely, I have bought a Taylor's diesel heater. This is a fairly big floor standing heater. It looks probably from the 70s. It doesn't look like it's been used for a very long time. It's quite rusty, and my plan is to take it to bits and reassemble it. I can't find any manual for it. I can't find anything about Taylor's for this kind of heater. The bolts look like they're quite rusty. They look like they can't be replaced, so I'm going to have to be really careful. And my plan is to strip it right back, clean it all up and put it back together and see if I can get it to work. As if that wasn't enough, I am not an engineer, I'm not a car mechanic. I don't like getting my hands dirty, I don't like grease under my fingernails. I've got a few tools, but hey, how hard can it be? So come on this journey with me and we'll see what we end up with. Bought this online, and to be fair, it looked a lot smaller than it actually is. So I'm going to take it to bits and see if I can get it working. It's got what looks like a fairly new thermocouple, but this drip feed thing looks really ancient. It looks like it's an older version. The drip feed looks like it was updated in 1993. I've got another Taylor's diesel heater, which is the wall mounted one, and you can see that the burner unit by comparison is really quite small, and that, I think it produces 2 kilowatts, and as you can see it's got the modern drip feed, so it'll be really interesting to see if I can get that old drip feed working. But it should throw out an awful lot of heat. We'll see how we get on. Well, this is the interesting bit where we're taking stuff to bits that hasn't come apart for a very long time. So the first thing I had to take off was this top part of the outer casing, and I had to drill out there are 3 rivets that I drilled out, and that gave me access to the inner bit. So that's the bottom of the tank, quite rusty, and now here are all the bits I've taken off. So I've cleaned up I'm not sure what you'd call this, the top of the burner unit where the hob is, I suppose you'd call it the hob, and I've got a box of bits, and what I've found in the burner unit was these rings. There are 2 pairs of them. As a big pair and a little pair, and I haven't really cleaned them up yet. I'm not sure that I actually need to, but they're really solid rings, and they go in the bottom of the burner unit. One sits right in the bottom, and then about halfway up there's like a ring around the edge, and they go on that. I've also taken apart the thermocouple, so that's the top bit of the thermocouple, and then that leads down to the drip feed mechanism. I'm not quite sure whether to take that to bits or not. If I take it to bits I might have problems with washers. Sitting on top of the whole unit is this guardrail, which is pretty corroded. I think it's chrome, but I'm not quite sure what's underneath it. I suppose it could be brass. I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll get a quote to have it re-chromed. That would look rather nice. And so I got my quote, and it came in at an eye-watering £200 odd. So we're not going to be doing that. You won't be surprised. We're going to have to come up with an alternative. Probably going to try and polish it. So just a word of warning to anyone doing this sort of thing. There are 3 or 4 3/16 Whitworth bolts. You can just see me zooming in on them. I could not move them, and I was going to cut them off and just try and push the bottom of the bolt through. I'm so glad I didn't, because they're actually threaded into the housing of the casting, and if I'd done that I'd have been in real trouble. But I eventually did manage to get them out, as you can see from the polishing I did. So that was that. There's just a few other odds and ends. So this sits in the bottom of the actual burner. I think it's called a flame spreader or something like that. And these are the 2 flues. On the left is the one from my tailor's, which is 2 inches. The one on the right is 3.5, so that's really going to draw some heat up. So we're on the exciting stage now, which is putting things back together. So I've given this a few coats of black stove paint, and it's come up really well, and that's a really solid flue top, and it sits inside the burner, and I'm really pleased with that. So the burner itself, I've got a little bit of work to do on that. I'm going to paint the feet black. I'm going to use the stove paint. I'm going to mask it all up and use the stove paint, and then you can see at the bottom there is that's a 3/16 Whitworth screw thread. So when you put the burner the right way up inside the casing, those holes should locate, but beware they don't, because they're very springy. So before I do anything, I'm going to paint the inside and the outside of the outer casing with this rust prevention paint. It actually turns or binds to the rust, and although it's white, it actually turns black. I'm hoping that it won't get too hot and burn. I don't think it should, because it's way below the burner. And you can see there the screw holes that I was talking about. The inner one is got like a pre-drilled thread, and then the outer one is the one you have to locate the feet over, and then you bolt an external foot onto each one. There are 3 of them, as you can see they're located. So the top bit is now bolted into the burner. Please don't do what I did, which is to put the burner in first, spend ages and ages locating the bolts through the bottom and the external feet, and then finding that when you offered up the flue bit, the bolts that need to put it safely and securely are actually on the inside, so you have to redo it all again. So it's all looking good now. I just need to do some fettling and it'll be ready to go. So I've got these little bolts, and they've got some kind of almost self-locking thing on the end. They're really hard to come by. I managed to get a few online. So my plan is to, this goes on here, and then the whole thing goes on here. Now when I took it off, I made the mistake of taking this bit off first, which meant I had to put a spanner under here, and there it's like an 8mm spanner, and then undo it from the top, which was really difficult because this has got a bit of a lip on it and you can't really get a spanner in. Of course, what I should have done is take this off with this all in one go, and then got access underneath to the nuts, but I didn't do that. And this is held in place by 3 rivets. So this whole thing is riveted down here. I don't need to take those apart, but there's a rivet here, there's a rivet here, and then there's another rivet here above the nameplate. So I've now got to put this back on with these bolts, which I need to clean up because they're very grubby, and then I need to re-rivet, take that rivet out, and that one there, that one's already come out, and re-rivet it, and then that'll be the top on. How hard can it be? So I've cleaned up the heads of the nuts, and I've got some nice new screw things. What a muppet. I've managed to get 3 on, and trying to work out why those 2 don't seem to have a hole. That's because I've put them in the wrong place. At least I didn't tighten them up too much. Should have been a dentist. Make more money. So 10 minutes to get 3 rivets out, 10 minutes to look for the rivet gun, and 15 minutes to look for the rivets, because, you know, who in their right mind would put the rivet gun and the rivets in the same place? 5-minute job. So all the rivets I had were too big, and the ones I thought were just a fraction too small, they went in okay, but because that's quite heavy, when I went to lift it up, they all popped out. So I've had to make the holes slightly larger, put slightly bigger rivets in, which work fine, except for one where you've got 2 bits of steel. When I tried to make the hole bigger on the outside, it pushed that in. Anyway, it's done now. Sits like that. It's very hard how it's fallen off. Oh, come on. Hold them in place and lower them. Oh no, because they won't go through the hole then, will they? Yep, that's definitely it. So, what's next? I think what's next is called a cup of tea. Yeah, I've hit another problem. My diesel tank that goes with the other Taylors has got a fitting on it like that, and it needs to have something that goes on there. It did come with one, which is this one. So I think that will definitely go on there. And on this end we'll put onto the diesel tank that came with it. So after a little fettling, we've now got the diesel tank connected, and we're all good to go. It's at this point that I ask myself, how do I preheat this? because with the wall mounted Taylor's diesel, there's a little hole at the bottom and you squirt meths in and set light to it and wait for it to go. There is no way of doing that here, so I can either pour some meths in, and I'm not going to put my hand in, but I was wondering if I can use this this weed wand here, because I used it yesterday to burn off all the gungy old diesel. I'm thinking, will that preheat it? Well, the diesel is in the tank. There's none coming out at the bottom, so I guess it might be worth lighting it, or well, what do we know so far? So if you hold the thermocouple down, the diesel goes through the drip feed into the bottom and lights, so it's smoking, and that's just the diesel that's in there. It's not dripping anymore because I've taken my finger off the thermocouple. There's a leak here. I think I'll probably have to replace that bit of pipe possibly, and the thermocouple isn't coupling or uncoupling, it's uncoupling, so I'm just wondering if I might need to get a new thermocouple. These two bits of pipe, I thought they would go over that, but they just sit on it, so I'm going to have to work out what to do there. It needs some kind of collar. I'm just having a cup of tea and a think. It's the next day, and I think I've convinced myself that this thermocouple is probably knackered. It's got some really nasty twists there, and where it goes into the burner unit, the wire's completely, oh sorry, the copper tube is completely separated. I don't really know much about them, but I understand that when the probe gets hot, it generates a very small electrical current that goes up to this bit here, and there's a spring and a magnet in here, so when you press the blue button to let the diesel out, if there's enough voltage coming through here, obviously it's very, very small, it will cause the spring to stay down, but as the electrical current dies down, because the heat's died down, the spring will come back. So I think I'm going to have to get this thermocouple out, which is easier said than done, because to put it in you have to put that end in first, thread it all the way through, and then where the probe is, it screws in. So in order to screw it in, this whole copper needs to be straight, but then you're left with all this copper on the outside. So I think what I'll do is, when I get the new one, I will feed it round the inside and up. And the other thing I've got to sort out is the fact that this is leaking from here. It looks like someone's put, I'm assuming that someone's put a I don't know if that's just reinforcing or someone's made a repair. So I'm going to undo that, and put some PTFE tape around there and see if that works. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to replace that bit of pipe. And it just so happens that out of the blue, a friend of mine the other day, I was having a clear out, and he said, "Do you want some copper piping?" And I said, "Oh, I don't think I need copper piping." And he said, "You never know, it might come in useful." And I think there might be a bit in there that is going to be the same diameter as this, but I don't have the right olives. Hey ho. Well, I'm no Einstein, but I think these two have to be connected if your thermocouple's going to work, and that has broken off at some point. New thermocouple needed. As far as this is concerned, I've taken it apart, and there's quite a big nipple on there, which I've well, it was pretty tight before, so we're going to leave that for the moment. We'll just tackle one battle at a time. So time for a new thermocouple, and we'll see if we can get this baby working. In the meantime, this is I managed to get this on here. It's not the greatest fit, but it's not going to come off, and it's a seal. So I think what I'm going to do is polish up the flue, and for the time being leave it like that. Well, I'm not going to say that polishing wasn't time consuming, but I'm really pleased with the result. When I first picked them up, I actually thought they were galvanised, they were so dirty. So, just the thermocouple to go. Well, as you can see, the new thermocouple has arrived, and what I've done is I've threaded it all the way around the inside and back up, so it goes in here all the way around, out there and up. But the big question is it working? It sure is. I am a very happy bunny. There's still a slight leak, I think, from this joint here, so I'm going to have to fiddle around with that, but in the grand scheme of things that is nothing. So here we are. That stovetop's getting very hot. I said I'd boil a kettle and make a cup of tea, didn't I? Might just do that. Well, it's quite a cool evening, and this stove flue is only 1 metre, so it's probably could do with a bit more on to draw it up, and I've increased the drip rate and I'm pleased to say we have boiling water for the tea. I cannot tell you how chuffed I am to boil water on something that I bought, well, just rusty heap basically. Nothing worked, and it's all been stripped down, put back together, and it works, which is a first for me. Anyway, cheers. Oh, that's hot. What next?